Well, the collaborative is actually an association of 4 colleges: UVM, St. Michael's College, Northern Vermont University, and Castleton University. And those institutions work to develop teachers at the middle level in a variety of ways. One is at the Middle Grades Institute, which is a week-long residential professional development retreat during the summer. And we have teachers from all over the state, and now we're becoming regional. We had some people from Philadelphia, and we've had people from New York and New Hampshire, and even from Maine.
And then we also get a few international educators.
That's true.
This year, we've had folks from Guatemala, we've had
New
folks
Zealand.
from New Zealand, we've had folks from Switzerland.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
So that's one thing that the collaborative does, is the Institute, but it also supports teachers during the year with PLP Pathways. And PLP Pathways is a webinar series of practitioners who work on specifically personalized learning, proficiency-based education, and flexible pathways. And they share what they're doing in their classrooms and at their schools. And that's headed up by Don Taylor at Main Street Middle School. We also have consultants from PLP Pathways that work with individuals and teams of teachers throughout the state on certain types of projects that they're working on that are associated with the 3 pillars of personalized learning, which is PLPs, or personal learning plans, proficiency-based education, and flexible pathways.
It might be helpful also just to know that the foundation of the Middle Grades Institute is pretty deep, that this is the 25th year of that, and it was, the collaborative was essentially created to ensure that we have teachers in Vermont who understand the nature and needs of the young adolescent, that we didn't always have a middle grades endorsement, so it was possible and continues to be possible for teachers to teach in grades 5 through 8 without having specific knowledge of that age group. And so it was really an attempt, and continues to be an attempt, to ensure that we have educators who really understand young adolescents.
And this year at the Institute at Castleton University, we had over 150 educators working to improve middle-level education.
Mm-hmm.
We also work with students from middle schools with our career camp to model the types of flexible pathways that they can pursue in thinking about not only what they're going to do in high school, but beyond, whether it's college or other post-secondary experiences.
And the other piece that they help us model is attending to student voice. So we really, for a very long time now, have engaged students as consultants and experts during the week. So it's not unusual for a team of teachers to request a student consult on a particular curriculum unit or a structure that they're trying out in their school. And the kids who are with us for the week come and act as the experts in early adolescence.
And when we look back at the feedback from the students, one of the things they always note is how much they really enjoy those consultations with teachers, where they're the experts and telling the teachers their advice and their feedback. And that ties in nicely to how we try to develop personal efficacy for students and even for our faculty mm-hmm. and our participants.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
The kids love consulting with teachers. It rates higher than
mm-hmm.
the pool time. And pool time's pretty great.
It sure is.
So how does personalized proficiency-based learning and flexible pathways meet the needs of these early adolescents?
Well, that's a good question.
That's a great question.
Well, with early adolescence, children are becoming adults. And so they are looking toward adults for guidance. And the structure of the 3 pillars allows for, and I'm going to say the 3 pillars again, the PLPs, personal learning plans, the proficiency-based education, and also the flexible pathways, allow avenues for students to think about who they are, but then who they might be. And the 3 pillars tend to have to work together, even though many folks have stressed when I say folks, other institutions and other professional development organizations tend to stress one or the other. We try to instill in our faculty and also in our participants the idea that you look at these three pillars as kind of a simultaneous unrolling to allow students to go from where I am and who I am to where I want to go. And each of those pillars allows for that to happen.
Mm-hmm. And kids that age are really increasingly ready for greater independence, greater responsibility. They really are craving that. And schools don't always offer opportunities for especially in an environment where it may be a K-6 or a K-8 and the culture tends to be more of a primary grades or an elementary grades thing. Sometimes early adolescents find that that's a challenging fit. And so as they're going through those years, it's really helpful to have some structures in place that help them, that provide opportunities for them to drive their own education. And I think that's what personalized and proficiency-based can be for kids, can really be about taking ownership over their own education. So it's a particularly good fit, I think, in the middle grades.
And with the flexible pathways and scaffolding that, what we're able to do, especially around responsibility, for instance, where students are trying to take on responsibility, many teachers are good at saying, we're going to have you be responsible for X, Y, and Z. We want you to take responsibility. Well, with flexible pathways and personalized learning, we structure how we can scaffold them understanding how to go ahead and take responsibility.
Mm-hmm. And it is interesting because I think when people talk about flexible pathways, they know what that means at the high school level. There's so many interesting options for dual enrollment and such, but people were really kind of stuck on what does that mean in the middle grades, especially given there's considerably less access to transportation. You don't have the college access that you have at the higher levels, and so educators in Vermont are kind of creating, experimenting, and then implementing lots of new ideas around what that means.
So, for instance, with the Green Team at Main Street Middle School, Don Taylor has facilitated opportunities for his students to be able to work with community leaders in the Montpelier area and also some organizations in Chittenden County and even as far south as Randolph around sustainability. And these are structured opportunities for students to take on responsibility, to practice different types of transferable skills that they will use throughout their lifetime. And it allows them to look at different opportunities and careers and interests that they may have and that they can kind of try out and then pursue if they wish.
And it relies heavily on project-based and service learning approaches, and I think those are really key pedagogies for the middle grades, and they're such a good match for personalized learning that's a really important piece of what they try to do. Those are good examples.
That's a good point around the project-based learning. It's interesting to see at the Institute at Castleton this past summer how many of the teachers and teams of teachers were working on how do I integrate this project-based learning into my curriculum while at the same time allowing students to think about the different choices that they may have. And then also, how do I integrate the different transferable skills or other proficiencies that we would do in a traditional curriculum, but now do it in one that provides student voice and autonomy in their own learning.
And those examples from the Green Team are also ones that have that authentic audience and that sort of real-world application, and that makes a huge difference.
And we're seeing it in Shelburne. We're seeing it.
So many schools across the state.
It's so many schools now. Yeah. It's great.
Yeah.
So how does MGI support teachers in implementing the 3 pillars in their classrooms?
I think we answered that.
Yeah, I think we kind of did, but I don't know that we've spoken to the modeling piece that much, right? So one of the things we try to do at the Institute is to model the 3 pillars, to model effective practice and how you meet the needs of your learners. And so when a teacher comes to the Institute, he or she ends up planning their pathway for the week based on their personalized goals. where we set it up so that we're in teams, much like a modern or contemporary middle school would be.
That are interdisciplinary?
Yep, interdisciplinary teams. We have flexible grouping and scheduling in place for them.
We have flexible learning opportunities, whether it's looking at the modules, peer consultations, student consultations. Workshops.
Right. So there's a lot of opportunity for choice embedded within it all, which is a really important part of it as well. Yeah.
And we actually ask the teachers to experience what it's like to do the process of developing what we call for the teachers a professional learning plan, which is very similar to a student personal learning plan. We ask the teachers to think about who they are, what needs they have, what interests they have, and then to set goals for the week and even beyond. And then while they are going through the week, they tend to accumulate evidence of their learning, and they'll post it on a personalized or professional learning plan or portfolio. The one that we're using at the Institute is called Protean, which allows the teachers to post their evidence of their learning and to tag it to their professional goals. And then they can go back and they can reflect on those posts and think a little bit more deeply about what they're doing and why they're here and how they're going to apply the learning to their fall semester or beyond.
And I think that's one of the things that teachers appreciate the most. That's what they report appreciating the most anyway about MGI is the opportunity to work on the work that they need to do anyway, as opposed to feeling like they're sitting in something that's not relevant for them, to really be able to identify their own personal and professional goals with or without a team with them, and then to have knowledgeable facilitators to help them move through that, which is really what we want for kids as well. So it is a very powerful modeling opportunity. Yeah.
Indeed.
So there are a few ways that participants share the work that they do once they leave MGI. So they experience this intensive week-long PD experience, and then they go back to their schools, and many of them conduct action research during the fall semester where they're really trying out new things. They're relying heavily on student input from their own classes in order to improve their practice and to learn more about what works for this age group. And then we ask them to share out what they've learned. And so one of the ways that they do that is to come back together in January. It's usually mid to late January. And we host a conference where it's just an amazing assortment of high quality action research projects that teachers share with each other and learn from each other about what they've done.
And what's nice about the conference is most conferences are where academics are telling teachers what they should be doing. This conference is where teachers are sharing what they are actually doing and learning and recommending to other teachers the practices that you can do in your classroom. So that's the kind of the twist that we have there, is empowering the teacher. And again, it's a modeling, asking the teachers to step into the role of learner, and hopefully the teachers ask their students to model, to actually do that type of presentation, that type of empowerment.
Right. It's really honoring teacher voice. So then there's the other way we honor teacher voice, if you want. Do you want to
It's with the middle grades review. The middle grades review, it's actually Penny and myself are co-editors. And what we're trying to do there is allow for teacher educators and practitioners, actual teachers in the field, to share the type of work that they're doing, but not just in Vermont. We're talking, and not just nationally. We have people from all over the world who contribute to the middle grades review. It's an online journal. It's peer reviewed, and it's out usually 3 or 4 times a year.
That's right.
And it's online. People can just search.
Free to access. Yeah. Completely free to access. And we have a specific type of entry that we invite teachers to contribute to called the practitioner perspective, and it's a great way to highlight the work that they're doing.